Welcome back, comrades. This is Gaming with Alston. We're going on to episode 134 of Season 2 of the Utopian Community series. Let's get started. As soon as I get my hair out of the way, let's get started. Minute 32 seconds. In. We're gonna try to widen the catwalk, or heatsink, which I like to call it. You know, going down to 2 or even 1% body fat is really bad for you no matter how much you weigh. It doesn't matter how much you weigh. Going that low in body fat can actually kill you, because your cells utilize that body fat to make the phospholipid bilayer. I learned that in biology. That your body fat is kind of required in order to produce that bilayer that creates the cell wall of all your cells. If you remove all your body fat, like every lost fat cell you have, you're going to die. All your cells would slowly get destroyed, because there's nothing to create the bilayer out of. And you have nothing to keep you warm. Even if hypothermia doesn't kill you, what's gonna kill you then? Cellular deterioration. Like, it's gonna happen at the cellular level, hence the name. Cellular deterioration. know, not all overweight people eat a lot. There are some overweight people that simply cannot help it. Like those with thyroid issues. They cannot help it. So stop blaming the obesity epidemic on them. Back in the 80s and 90s, we were led to believe that trans fat was healthier than saturated fat. Trans fat is actually a whole lot worse. It doesn't matter if it makes you overweight or not. If we eradicated obesity completely, it'll be bad news for the human race. When climate change strikes, crippling our food supply. Because we need body fat just in case a famine strikes, caused by a factor none of us have control over. That's how our Stone Age ancestors survived. Stop blaming sugar cravings, your child's sugar cravings on them. It's not their fault that they're craving so much sugar. A lot of it's in their, child's cravings for sugar is actually written in their DNA. Because back in the Stone Age, we had to rely on our sense of taste to determine if something was poisonous or nutritious. I learned from a documentary that cat food will probably taste like meat. That is because cats need meat to survive. The problem with kibble is cats cannot digest kibble very well because their gut's too short and that their stomach acid is too strong for our gut bacteria to survive in them. My opinion on meat consumption is you should, unless there's a famine, you should not be eating meat at all. Unless there's a famine or if you're not able to produce enough cholesterol to keep you alive. The reason why your brain uses so much energy, because if your brain stopped, if your brain was to use less energy, even if it was the same mass, all your organs would begin to fail simultaneously. You would die from multiple organ failure. Most of the energy your brain uses is actually used for all the involuntary functions inside your body. Like your heart beating, or your diaphragm contracting and relaxing. Yes, even digesting your food. Like in your gut. Inside your gut. Your brain uses a lot of energy for all the involuntary functions. And your heart beating all the time, non-stop, even when you're sleeping, is proof that your brain never goes to sleep even if you're asleep. Your brain has to stay active at all times in order for you to stay alive. At all times. In order for you to stay alive. Which is probably why your brain uses so much energy. That is because your brain is one of those organs that has to stay active at all times. Your brain cannot sleep with the rest of your body, or else you're going to die. When you remove when you only give your brain oxygen but no nutrients, even then though, your brain's still gonna atrophy. And even then though, what happens next is your organs are gonna fail. The part of your brain that uses the most energy out of your brain's total energy expenditure is actually your brainstem and your spinal cord. Your brain is active all the time. If you stop your brain activity, you're dead, basically. And it's not just the human brain that uses so much energy. All animal brains have a high energy expenditure. The reason your brain is so greedy like that is because your brain actually has the greatest need to eat out of all your organs. Your brain has the greatest need. Because if not for the greatest need to eat, your brain would start to atrophy very quickly. If it started using less energy, then your brain would start to atrophy. Even the brain cells even your nerves have a high energy expenditure on its own. Even your nerves have a high energy expenditure on its own. When your brain runs out of energy, the brain starts to atrophy, as seen in those with chronic traumatic encephalopathy and people with dementia. And if the brain atrophies to a certain point, then the person dies. Another disorder that causes your brain to atrophy is something called Batten disease, which is something you're born with. It's not something you can prevent if you have a genetic mutation. This is why we need genetic testing for Batten disease. Because early detection can actually increase your lifespan. Early detection can mean an improved prognosis. When it's detected early enough. Your brainstem uses a lot of energy on its own. It's the most vital part of the brain. That is what keeps you alive. Like with all the involuntary functions. Which is why death is inevitable in cases of decapitation, aka beheading. Not just because the brain will lack oxygen, but also your organs would begin to fail at the same time. So it's basically every organ would fail. Every organ in your body will fail if your head gets chopped off. In the case of beheading, it's used as a method of execution. It was used as a method of... it's still used as a method of execution in ISIS-controlled territory in the Middle East today. But back then, it was very common to use beheading as a method of capital punishment. In Nazi Germany, prisoners were sometimes beheaded just because of their skin color, which was pretty sad. When your brain gets fried in the electric chair, that's how it then it's gonna kill you. Electricity has to take the path of least resistance to maximize efficiency. If it takes a path of really high resistance, of the highest resistance, it's not how the universe works. The universe is always taking the path of least resistance. even down to the quantum foam, quantum particles will still take the path of least resistance. Because even down to the quantum foam, there is still friction. The electric chair basically takes advantage of physics as a means of execution. I personally oppose the use of capital punishment. What we need is a prison justice reform. What we need is justice reform. Imagine having the death penalty, your execution date scheduled before you were even born. That's what it's like for animals that are exploited simply for their meat. Their execution date is already set before they're even born. It's pretty sad. The best thing you can do is to reduce your meat consumption so you can save more animals. But if you're a cat, you cannot do that, or else you're going to die if you're a cat. Because most cats cannot digest plant and vegetable. They cannot digest vegetation very well. Because their stomach acid is too strong for the bacteria needed to digest vegetation to survive. Their stomach acid is simply too strong for it. Which is why they have little to no gut flora whatsoever. Because the stomach acid is too strong. It is simply too strong. Concerns for animal welfare should not just include humans and possibly dogs going vegan, but feeding your cats nothing but raw meat. You shouldn't be feeding them cat food that has grain, because they cannot digest the grain at all. Because it kind of requires gut bacteria for them to do that, which their stomach acid is too strong for it to survive. Their gut bacteria, the gut bacteria cannot survive in the cat's stomach. The gut bacteria we have cannot survive in a cat's stomach. That is because their stomach acid is way too strong for that. close your eyes, I will take your hand. Some people believe that we should be eating meat. They're wrong. We need to eat less meat. We need to cut down on our meat consumption if we want to fight climate change. The only possible way to remove trans fats from your diet is to go vegan. It's really the only possible way. Because your body naturally produces trans fat. Constantly. In moderation, saturated fats are actually good for you. The problem with having 0% body fat is it's harder to absorb certain vitamins if you have very little fat in your body. Because some vitamins are fat soluble. Which is why you need some another reason that you need some body fat. Go too low, you're gonna suffer severe vitamin deficiency, no matter how much you weigh. Our bodies are actually able to break down beta-carotene into vitamin A. If your bodies cannot produce taurine, it applies to all animals, not just humans. They need to source it somewhere. And cats. One example of an animal that has to source their taurine completely is a cat. Cooking the meat would denature certain amino acids like taurine. So the healthiest diet for your cat is actually the most natural diet for your cat. The reason why sugar-free and fat-free anything that is also sugar-free is bad for you, that's because your body needs those. The truth is, your body really needs both sugar and fat. Your bodies cannot survive solely on protein alone. Anyways, this should be it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you like this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Subscribe for more. Share this with your comrades on social media. as always, thank you for watching, stay tuned for more, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for more content like this. As always, thank you for watching, stay tuned for more, and peace out.